you are all doing well today. I have been looking over some of the specimens that I have in my collection, and honestly, I wasn't sure what we wanted to sketch today. I reached out to the chat box, and I didn't see anybody messaging back or anything, so here's the deal. I think we're going to do a paper wasp today. I think we've done a number of different vespids. I don't think we've done the paper wasp yet. We did the bald-faced hornet, and we did the golden polyfer aristes or whatever. Pholistes aurifer. I think we did the golden wasp. I don't think we've done just our basic paper wasp yet. So paper wasps, I'll go ahead and introduce myself really quick. So my name is Trisha. I am from Insectopia, and we are live streaming every day in the month of October. Sundays, today is a little bit of a special day because we do it earlier at 4 p.m. Eastern. But all of the other days of the week, we are live at 10 p.m. Tomorrow, make sure you drop in at 10 p.m. Eastern to meet my chinchillas. We're doing Monday meet and greets with my animals. And I've done tarantulas and scorpions, and we're going to meet next week my chinchillas. The week after that, I think that we're going to meet my cats. And then after that, I have a series of beetles that I can share with you. So we're going to do like an insect show and tell, because I also have camel crickets that are laying eggs now. I was kind of excited about that. I had them in a jar for being on the news. But then there was a little bit of substrate in there, and the females started burying down, and they started laying all types of eggs, and I guess it was nice and warm in there. So now I've got all types of camel cricket eggs, and I'm really excited for them to hatch and to kind of start that rearing process. It should be kind of fun. So that's a little bit about Invertober. Every Saturday we're doing death's head moths. We're doing a lot of sketching and drawing, sketching with pencil on Sundays and Thursdays, and then with ink on Wednesdays and Fridays. Alright, get my camera all situated really quick, turn the light on so we've got some detail. Alright, I love it. So there is actually, I haven't identified this paper wasp down to species yet. There is a really wonderful key written by the Canadian Entomological Society, I believe. The Canada Entomologist journal came out with a really great key to the Vespidae of Canada. But this specimen was collected in Michigan, and so a lot of the species in Canada are going to be the same in Michigan. And a lot of times when you're identifying insects, you're not going to have the key that is exactly for the small region that you are in. You'll have a variety of keys from multiple regions with all types of different species, and you run them through multiple keys and make sure it all comes out to the same thing. Identifying insects can be a little bit of work too. And maybe one of these days, instead of like sketching, we can go through a key and we can kind of break down a lot of the scientific lingo in them, because yeah, we get to go over a lot of the scientific lingo, through this, but then sometimes keys will word things funny or like create new words based on different beginnings and endings of words and all type prefixes. That's what they're called, prefixes and endings and stuff. So yeah, there you go. LucidCentral.org has a Vespidae paper wasps key too. Maybe we will just key the Vespid together at some point. we're going to sketch the overall body shape of our friend here. I'm going to scoot it up a little bit. Nope. I was hoping that it was going to fit completely on, the microscope, but it doesn't. So we're going to bring it on over here so that we can measure it really quick. I know my nature journalers like to have measurements in centimeters, so it is about 1.7, I would say it's about 1.7 centimeters long. So this is in the family, we call it Vespidae. It's spelled V-E-S-P-I-D-A-E. And this is a paper wasp. Now, all paper wasps are in this same family, but then sometimes you'll have like more specific common names. With this one, it's probably yellow jacket, right? It would be the common name that everyone knows this individual by. But even yellow jacket, it just refers to any of the Vespid wasps that are striped black and yellow. So even the word yellow jacket doesn't mean one species. It's kind of a group of species that are all wasps that are black and yellow. So our overall body shape, we're going to be drawing our wasp from a dorsal point of view. We like to go first with a very, very light sketch, and then we'll go over it darker. So if we take this, our head has a little bit of an arch and then comes up in a D. And then after I get this really light sketch, we're going to zoom into our microscope, and then we're going to check out some of the really cool features. So that's kind of our overall body shape for our head. Our thorax, a lot of times, is rectangular or square, but this one seems to be very round. So I want to make sure that I tip my hat to that very round-like thorax here. And these lines can always be fixed and modified, especially when we zoom in and we learn a little bit more about the basic shapes and the features that it has. So we've got my head, my thorax. Now, the abdomen, it does connect to a wasp waist. So after you have this kind of circular thoracic region, I like to come down and make a point here, because that's going to show that we have this really cool wasp waist. We're going to scooch our specimen down or over. Oh, come on, Mr. Microscope. Good morning. There we go. It likes to auto do brightness on my computer, and so sometimes it'll like flash really bright and then it'll go over dark. And so I'm thinking overall my sketch is probably a little bit too wide. I might be going back in and kind of just shifting the center so that his head's a little bit more narrow and it's a little bit smaller. I'm thinking that's going to be better to work with. All right. Now let's give this wasp waist, and our abdomen starts off with this very straight angle here and then comes down to a point. That is obviously where our friend's stinger is. This is a female, so she does have a stinger, and only wasps, only females in wasps, only the females have stingers. So, let's see. Right about here in the center of our, maybe a little above center, I'm gonna sketch a little, these are like little D's. These are the, I believe we call them the scapula. They're like the shoulder pads of the wasp. Wait. I thought that's... Oh, no, it's the tegula. I'm like, there's something wrong with it. That didn't sound right. So so these little 2Ds up here, these are essentially their caps that cover our wings, and we call them the tegula. Sorry about that misspeak. The scapula is the human shoulder blade. All right. So we've got our head, our thoracic region, and our abdomen. Our wings are going to be coming down from the tegula here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the wing on the left side and then the legs on the right side. As a lot of you know, I'll regularly just do one, set of legs. And that's mostly because when I'm speaking, that's funny, it's an exact example. When I'm speaking, it takes me a little bit longer to sketch and a little bit longer to think while I'm teaching. And so a lot of times where it'll take you so much time to sketch both pairs of legs, it'll probably take me the same amount of time to just sketch one set. Because I stop and chit-chat. So I like to build myself kind of stick legs to get an idea of where they're going to be placed. And a lot of times my stick legs are 3 parts because the insect legs are generally in 3 parts: the femur, the tibia, and the tarsal segments. All right, so I'm going to be turning off my image right here. We're going to zoom into the head. Where are my friends that are always wanting to see the ocelli? My paper wasp has 3 ocelli right there in the center of his head. Now, he also has 2 compound eyes, ocelli, and long hairs all over the front of his face. We would consider his face cetos. That is our scientific word for fluffy. All right, just trying to get my word all figured out. There we go. Close enough. No. There we go. Cool. So, we are sketching our head here, and now we had seen that our head was kind of rounded back, although I think that was it was like a, what do you call it, when it like messes with your eyes and you see something that isn't exactly true? I don't remember what that's called. All right. But you can see it has this yellow striping that ends in an arch, and that's what makes our head look a little bit like it arches very strongly back. But if we're looking at the overall head shape now that we're zoomed in, I'm actually going to erase this and kind of resketch it. I'm going to create the head with two parentheses and then close it off in the front. Because you can see it's more like this rounded shape than that was. Let's see if I can connect it down here. And it comes in just a little bit, but it's not that really strong arch, and there aren't any sharp points on the end of his head. So just making sure that it all rounds out really nice and evenly. A lot of times with the head, the features in the head are pretty minute, so I like to get my image closer to the camera when we're sketching the head. We'll probably move it back down when we're doing the body, because at this point, The camera gets in the way just a little bit. All right. So I have my head here. The first thing I'm going to want to do is create this arch where you've got that yellow coloration happening. And I want to go ahead, let's see. It's very narrow at the top, but it widens towards the base. So that's kind of this dark region here. We could even add a little bit of graphite and smudge it in a little bit. Then we have our yellow striping here that pretty much goes into nothingness when it gets up here, because then you have 3 little itty bitty ocelli. Keep in mind that you want these centered and in triangular formation. And then we have these compound eyes in front of this yellow stripe here. Now, these compound eyes do create kind of an angle here at the base. It doesn't look as strong on the left as on the right, which is kind of funny. But they do create an angle. I am going to round it out just a little bit so it doesn't look so rough, so like exact. But we do want to keep that line there for the yellow. There we go. All right. Now, you can see that the eye a little bit kind of protrudes from the edge. So right where you see your eye coming up to the edge of the head, you can come out and bring it out just a little bit and round it back in. That's going to just make your insect look like its eyes are doing something, you know? So I'm going to go back in and erase this head shape so we just have those eyes sticking out up there. I'm actually liking how our friend is turning out so far. I'm going to be coming back in and making some of these lines darker so that we know where the lines are. All right. Now, up here at the top, we have our antennal segments. We know that there are 3 main antennal segments that we look at a lot of times. So we see the scape, then the pedicel, and then the flagellum. So with these parts, the scape is always this first segment of the antenna. Let's see, get Terry out here. It's right about here. So this is that first segment of the antenna. Now, I believe if we refocus and we look right here at the end, there's a really small segment here that we would consider the pedicel. And then the rest of these segments that create the rest of the antenna, that would be called the flagellum altogether. And I'm not sure if you call the individual segments flagella. Somebody asked me that recently. Yes, flagella is the singular form of that word. But generally when you're talking about one antennal segment or multiple antennal segments, you just talk about them like that. You say the segments, not like the segments of the flagellum. But I wouldn't put it past an entomologist to write that into the key. You know, to avoid the scape and the pedicel, maybe if the antenna looks kind of funny or the pedicel is so small that it's hard to tell. I wouldn't put it past them to use it as a character. So it's always good to know. All right, I'm putting the antennal bases right here. Those are essentially our antennal sockets. They are not a segment of the antenna. That's just kind of your connection point. And then we have, looks like our scape is a fairly long segment. And then the rest of the segments, you can see it's going to go over that front pair of legs. So I'm going to put off sketching that until we are until we're done with the leg. Sorry, I just had a thought come to my head. And that was that it would be really cool to start putting in, maybe even just grabbing a yellow color pencil and start layering in some of this colors, because the colors on my wasp are really only black and yellow, right? So I thought that it would be a lot of fun to do that. And my colored pencils were normally right here, like within reach. But I think that I moved them at some point. So, sorry guys. We're going to move back to the thorax. I have a handful of you watching me right now, but I don't have any interaction over in the chat box. So if you have questions or comments, just let me know. If you've ever been stung by a paper wasp, you can go ahead and let us know that too. Did it hurt? What was the experience like? How long did it last? The stings from paper wasps are generally considered a 2.0 on the Schmidt Pain Index scale. So generally they're kind of midway through the pain index. Alright, so we've got that head taken care of. We are moving back to our thoracic region, and we have a handful of both yellow and black designs and some shapes to fix, which is good. So, let me go ahead. I think that my leg is going to end up getting pushed back just a little bit. So I'm going to be going ahead and erasing that right now because it's messing with my head. All right. And I'm coming in, let's see. I've got a little bit of a center line happening. Come around. So the edging of our wasp is very rounded, as you can see, and then it actually does kind of come up like that. Wow, that's really cool. All right, so I did leave just a little bit of space in between the head and the thorax. I'm just going to kind of darken that space in because there is connection happening there, but it's really hard to kind of put your thumb on, put your fingers on. I need to cross-hatch within the eyes. A lot of times that cross-hatching just makes it look so much more real to me, so I love it. All right. Now, I think that our tegula are actually just a little bit too high on my thorax for my image now. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of scoot it back. Now, if we look at the overall shape of our thoracic region here, it looks like this medial suture is about 2/3 down the body. So I would, like this right here, that's what we call a suture. It's a line in between two sclerites, or two pieces of the exoskeleton. And it's one that goes like this. So it looks like a line, but it's actually a fold in the exoskeleton. It just does this and it comes back up. But it gives us that kind of line-like appearance. That's what we call it, a suture. Alright, so if I'm going about there, I think that suture is probably about there. So, I want to get this line pretty dark. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Get my overall shaping. Darkened out. This one is a real line. Alright, and then right above this is where we have the tegula, or where we have those shoulder pads for our paper wasp. They are right about... They're right about in this region. Right about where the antenna connects to the wing connects to the thorax. So... kind of like this. And like that. So we have those two tegula, and that's going to be our connection. It protects all of those muscles that help the wings fly and all types of things like that. Our tegula... oh, it might be a little bit higher. That feels better to me. All right, so we've got that tegula, and this tegula area is going to be that yellow color. Down here underneath the suture, we have these two triangles that the top point is right there at that median line. So if you take your middle line and you come down from there, that's going to be yellow. And then at the very edge of our thorax, right here, down below, that's also going to be a yellow region. The dark areas do come all the way to the edge, so I'm going to go ahead and shade this part in and put an eraser right here and here to give us some of that shading. And then up here we have what looks like essentially an upside down U, or it looks like the St. Louis Arch. Or if you put two paper wasps together, it could be the McDonald's M. Alright, so we're taking this arch and we want to make sure that the angles on the ends are correct. I think that's about right. And we're going to darken the areas around it and keep that yellow spot nice and light. And because it's black and yellow, I guess we can just leave it dark and white too. Maybe when we're done sketching, I'll get up and leave you for like just 2 minutes. And then I'll go and grab the yellow color pencil and I'll shade it in that way too. Because I wanna start playing with colored pencils on live stream, but I will admit that I am not super experienced with them just yet. But that's why you gotta practice, right? So we've got our thoracic region figured out. I would say that if I pinned this specimen again, that pin is directly on the middle line, and that's no good. It's supposed to be right off to the center, so if I was going to repin him, I would want the pin here, closer to the right side. But for some reason, this specimen I put right through the center. All right, now, what I think is the most fun part is the designs and the spotting and the shapes on the abdomen. I've always found these really cool. And I haven't seen a Strep Sipterin yet, but one of these days I'm going to catch a paper wasp with a Strep Sipterin on it. And it's going to be the best, because then I'll be able to show all of you. All right. I am actually going to pull my wasp off of the microscope really quick because I want to look a little bit at its kind of its body ratios. I'm thinking that my abdomen needs to be a little bit longer, and because we're back to a bigger space, I can put my paper back on the desk and you can see more of my sketch. Little less detail, but a little more of the sketch, which is good. Let's see. If you take the head and the thorax and you put it on top of the abdomen is a little bit longer than the head and the thorax combined. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw a ruler on here and see what's up. I would say if I bring this wasp waist down to a finer point here, and I was just measuring from the head, I'm going to say that that's about 5 centimeters. And so I'm going to want the abdomen to be like 7 probably. Oh, look at that! It is about 7. I guess I did have it right. I might go just a little bit larger, because that's what I was feeling. I kind of wanted it a bit larger, but I wanted to, like, prove to myself that I needed to go bigger. As it turns out, my ruler was like, no, you're good, but I went bigger anyway. That's just how it is. Okay. What I want is so I'm actually going to zoom out as far as I can on the microscope here so we get a larger view of our vespid. Because I want an overall view of the wasp's abdomen and then the size of the sclerite, or the size of the abdominal segments. Alright, so we've got a little bit of a wasp waist here. I am going to kind of round off these edges because it does have strong edges, but it doesn't have 90-degree edges. And so that was just to kind of help guide me. And I'm thinking that that is pretty close to the right size for my abdomen. Now I want to get these segments taken care of, and it looks like the first segment, each one of these segments, when you divide them, you can make them kind of swoop up. That would be segment number 1. Segment number 2 is about double the length. So that's about segment number 2. Segment number 3 is a little bit shorter than 2. I believe there should be 6 segments. 3. Number 4 is even smaller. And then there is 5 and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So then there's 5. And then 6. And it does need to be a little bit shorter. I think that I had it right the first time. And now my sketch is like, no, go shorter. How dare you try to make it longer? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all of the lines down a little bit. I want that first segment to be just a little bit larger. Shaped up nicely. All right, so now that I have all of the length of the abdomen correct and the number of abdominal segments correct, my goal is to now create the outline. And when I do this, there isn't a huge gap in between the segments. It looks mostly like one smooth line, but I do know that each of the segments is individual, right? They have the ability to kind of flex and move. So when I go ahead and do these lines, every time I come in, I'm just going to, instead of doing one swoop and then doing individuals, I create each one of these segments individually, and just by doing that, you kind of automatically create this feeling that each one of these segments is individual. And I'm going to go back and erase some of these extra lines. Some of these lines that are making it look a little bit confused. We don't want any confusion here. Alright, so we've got 6 segments. Now we can go ahead, now that we have the sizes of each segment taken care of, we can go ahead and zoom in on each one of them as we're doing the designs. Oof. All right. right, so there is also an insect called a Strep Sipterin, and it's a parasitoid of paper wasps. Parasitoid? I don't know if it actually kills the host. So it's probably just a parasite. Parasitoids have to kill the host, and I think these guys actually need their host to survive, so they leave them alive. But it's a little insect that gets in between the abdominal segments, and so that's why each one of them needs to look separate, is because there is an insect that has this ability to kind of crawl into between those segments, and they live their entire life there. And the females will just live on the paper wasps. The males do have wings and can fly. They only have 2 wings, like a fly, but instead of having the halteres on the hind wings, Strep Sipterin have hind wings, but no forewings. It's kind of they're really weird looking. All right, we are gonna darken way up here at the top because our first abdominal segment starts pretty dark and comes down here, and it creates it does create a pretty strong kind of yellow colored ledge, which is why I think it looked like the abdomen was so much more like angulate when we were zoomed out, is because of that little bit of darkening here. We are working off of a center line, and maybe I shouldn't have erased it just yet because all of these designs also work off of the center line. So we've got this one here that starts narrow and goes super wide. And I do believe that it also has a tip at the end here. So we're going to come out here. All right. Something along those lines, and then we'll go ahead and shade it in a little bit. All right, now with our second abdominal segment, it's mostly just this one peak and the 2 dots. I mean, to me, it looks a little bit like a face. I've always kind of seen that and thought, oh, how cute. It doesn't start at the very, very top of the segment. It starts a little bit further down. It comes down and touches that center line at a nice peak here. And that is what we would consider A2, the second abdominal segment. So I'm going to go ahead and darken this line that separates our colors, and I'm going to shade this in. And I might even take this yellow region and hit it with an eraser a minute, because it kind of over-shaded a little bit. Yes, I love it. All right, let's get these little circles in here. This reminds me of like an owl face. All right. Trying to get rid of that center line so it's not obvious that I needed a guideline. All right, this is antennal segments. We can get 3 and a little bit of 4 in focus, and then we're going to be zooming down so that we can see 5 and 6. So with 3, it still starts a little bit up, but it's a lot more of a narrow band up here at the top, so there's a lot more yellow on A3. And we still have those 2 spots. Awesome. So that is 1, 2, 3. Moving on to 4. 4 just has a little itty bitty peak. See, this design gets smaller and smaller as we go down our little wasp friend here, but it still has those 2 spots. And wasps actually, a lot of these vespid wasps, they do use the coloration and the designs on the abdomen to identify a lot of them to species. So these designs and colors are actually very important, not just for our sketch to make it look pretty, but to identify our wasp. More importantly. So we have the last two abdominal segments here. They're very, very dark. You can see that the sixth one actually has a little bit of like separation between the away from the fifth one. And we might, now that we're zoomed in like that and we can see it a little bit better, we might go ahead and change this tip really quick. Because I was feeling like there was something missing or something that was like a little bit off. And so we have this fifth segment, and those spots are actually right up here. So there isn't any of that point, but you can see those little spots. And then the last segment is separated just a little bit more than anyone else, and it's going to be just a little bit darker. I am pretty happy with our vespid sketch so far. Now I do want to look at this left wing before we go ahead and do the legs. So I want to get close enough to the wings that we can see some of the details that I'm looking for, but far enough away that we can see as much as possible. And that's the character that I want to see. All right. This should work. So we are looking at this paper wasp's left wing here. And this is a front wing. If we're trying to decide which side is kind of the leading end of the wing, the leading side of the wing is actually to the left here. So instead of, let's see, how do I say this? So instead of kind of inverting their wings over their body, they just kind of pull their wings in and their wings kind of fold up a little bit. So if I was to open this paper wasp's wing, it does kind of unfold as it opens, but we have some major cells up here on the top that kind of help the structure of the wing and also kind of help with where the wing is going to fold. So our wing goes a little bit further than the length of our abdomen. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go give myself a line. I'm actually going to zoom all the way out. I need to see us. And if I need to see it, then you likely need to see it too. I should have looked at it before I drew a line right through all my beautiful designs. I want it to come out a little bit more than that. That's alright. I will have to go back and fix this. But luckily, I am just using pencil right now, and eventually I'm going to go back over this with pen. So, these things that we might have to fix, that's okay. It's allowed. Alright, so with my wing, it looks like I want it to kind of come out here. I want it to kind of barely touch this one and then come out. Hey, I did have it right. to open it up just a little bit more. And then we go just past our abdomen, and that's the inside of the wing. And then this out here is the leading edge of the wing. If we look, let's see. Just a little bit too long. Give me a minute while we get this. Well, we get this angle of this wing proper. That's better. There we go. That's a lot better. All right, so we do have this slight kind of angle here, at almost like a wedge shape at the end of our wing. The leading edge is right here. This is what we call the costa cell, or the coastal, that's the coastal vein. And it's this one right here that's really dark. So that one is important. We're going to add that one here. Just kind of darken that front edge of your wing. And so that's going to be your coastal vein. That's spelled C-O-S-T-A-L. Like a coast in the ocean without the A. All right. Now we have this subcoastal vein that does something like this. Instead of running directly parallel, it comes in a little bit and then comes back out. And it creates this cell here. And actually, it connects to the edge. Just feel like it's too big. Maybe the wing is too wide. Yep, that was it. The wing was too wide. It was making my coastal cell very large. All right. So we're still going to darken this. And then our coastal cell still enters the abdomen right at the same place. So it looks something like that. And that's way better. All right. So that's our coastal cell right here. Now, in Vespids, the defining characteristic that you can say, wow, it has this and you know it's a paper wasp, is this cell right here. It's called the D cell. It's the discal cell, and it sits right here underneath the coastal cell. And it goes a very, very long way. And our defining characteristic for Vespids, or paper wasps, is that their D cell is elongate. So it is very, very long cell on the vein, or on the wing, and that is our characteristic. Now, the D cell is a very long cell that not only, it kind of just helps with the folding of the wing, because I mentioned that it all has to fold down. So there's this really long cell that as its wings are folding, there's that strong vein that kind of gives it a line to fold on. And that is our wing. let's look at some legs. Or we don't. What if... I think the last time I drew... I think I have drawn a Vespid in the past. I think it was for students, though. But I think the last time I did one wing and one set of legs. And I'm kind of feeling like a lot of Vespids kind of tuck their legs so you can't see them. And I want to take the... I kind of want to draw both wings. I want to make it look parallel and look nice. So this is what we're going to do. Alright, so now we have two wings. And that makes me happier. And now we don't have to sketch, we're not going to sketch the legs. We're just going to do the wings here. And then we're going to finish up the antenna. And what I'll do is we can even go ahead and we'll turn the specimen and we'll look at the Vespid head on. Because some of the features when you look at a wasp from the from like head on are really kind of cool. Ah, that's not right. Now I want to zoom in really quick because I want to see about this pedestal right here. It should be a very, very small segment. Yep, there it is. You see how there's this little itty bitty small kind of circular segment after the scape? That's the pedestal. And then the rest of this stem is the flagellum. And there are many segments in this flagellum here, although they are very, very smooth with one another. So instead of building these segments individually, I am going to go ahead and just create kind of one shape and then divide the segmentation. So we have the little pedestal that's this little itty bitty circle on the end of it. So you can go ahead and add those little guys, the little friends. And then you have the wasp's pigtails. No, the flagellum. I didn't go ahead and count the antennal segments. I'm not sure if that's a character that is in the keys. That's okay. Let's look at his face. It looks like there's a little man running on his face. I'll show you in a minute. I might be imagining things. Look how cute. Oh no! Oh, friends. Paper Wasp, come back. Alright, so if you look, when I said it looked like there was a man running on his face, doesn't it look like these two right here are feet, and it looks like he's kind of running? He doesn't have hands or a leg or anything. It just looks like the bottom of a person with, like, running feet. Or I guess it could be like a little mustache. So that's what our friend the Vespid Wasp looks like head on. The head from the front is, we would call this deltoid, kind of triangular shaped. And then we have eyes, and these eyes are what we would call reniform, because they are kidney shaped. They have this kind of indentation in the center, and that indentation is actually just a lot stronger than I made it. It's like more like that. And at kind of in here, this is where your antennal segments are. You have those 3 ocelli up here in the top, or your simple eyes. That really pretty kind of triangle that's yellow right here in the middle of his face. But if we're looking down here, let's see. After the eyes down here is actually where the mandibles start. So you could even kind of take those lines, bring them in, kind of like this. And then he's got a little front lip, and then you know, it's really quick. But we've got the compound eyes, we have the antennal segments, the ocelli, down here are the mandibles, and then that little running man, just because he was cute. And our friend did have a series of long hairs. His face was super cetos, but his eyes were not. So I'm just coming in here and adding some longer hairs on the head so that we get that characteristic down, and I think we have an absolutely beautiful paper wasp that I'm very proud of. That is a cool looking face. Hi, Sewing Nancy. Alright, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for hanging out with me today. I super appreciated all of you guys sticking around and sketching a paper wasp with me. Keep in mind that tomorrow we are meeting. Today is Sunday. Tomorrow we're meeting my chinchillas. So we're going to have a great day. We're going to talk about where they live, some of their care requirements, things that you can do, things that you cannot do with a chinchilla. And we're going to kind of just play with them for a little bit. I can answer all of your questions about them. Maybe I'll even give you a show around my bug room, because the chinchillas live in the bug room. It's kind of like our pet animal room that the cats are not allowed into. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I will see you next week. Keep in mind, I teach on OutSchool. That's a place where I teach 5 to 8-year-olds, 9 to 12-year-olds all about bugs. I actually am in the process of getting OutSchool to accept a program about pinning insects together. So if you know a student who's building an insect collection for school, you can send them in my direction and we can build the collection together, and they can ask me any questions they have about labeling or collecting or how to pin, or we could just work on our work together, which is great, and we can talk about the insects that we collected. We can talk about behavior and life cycles. I'm gonna have a blast with it. So over there is your reminder to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not already. Down there is a QR code that links to my PayPal. It just allows you to donate to me if you have really enjoyed this class, if you're going to take knowledge that from here out into the public, if you're going to, talk about me and get all excited, like, maybe you can also throw me a couple dollars. It's always super appreciated. I am going through and I'm almost ready to put in an Amazon order of a bunch of, like, buggy equipment type stuff, so I'm pretty excited about that. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week and stay buggy. Bye.